Hello again. Welcome back, Georgia. It's now February on our second episode of Exploring Your Journey. How you doing today?
I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm a mouth breather at the moment because I've been a bit poorly. But other than that, frustration that I can't use my nasal passages as much as I would like to. Yeah, I have sort of since Mum passed. Actually, I've sort of had like a like a chesty thing going on, and it's sort of like faded away a bit and then come back, and then since my mum's funeral, it's sort of been very in my face.
Mm.
So just trying to ride that.
Well, however you present yourself and whatever you bring today is totally welcome here. So whether you're in full health or on your way there, welcome back. So I thought it'd be nice to kind of start today with a little bit of a reflection on what our first episode was like for you. It feels, because I've had some interactions with you outside of this podcast in that time as well, and some big life events have happened for you still within this month. It feels like you're in a completely different place from where you were about a month ago, and I'm wondering if you have anything that you'd like to speak on in relation to what it was like recording that first episode and what it's like returning back to this space today.
Yeah. I think that first episode, that was like 2 weeks since Mum had died, I think. And now we're at week 7 or something. And I would say I was at the time I probably wasn't aware of it, but I was very numb. We were in the Lake District, and it was a very good little escape that we went on. But yeah, I think I was being quite utilitarian about my approach to the logistics of the stuff that was coming up, like the funeral and that. And now I feel like it's broken up a little bit, and there's a lot more like flow. Like it's less solid, and it's broken down a bit, and it's it's carving its own way now.
Right.
A lot more tears are flowing at this point, but I feel, and because of that, probably feel like slightly lighter, but then equally feel heavier at times, like you would like a water balloon. Like when you put loads of water in it, it gets like, and then actually eventually it has to burst, and then it's really light again. I feel like it's a bit like that.
Thinking back to this time in my own journey of grief, like just after losing dad and the funeral, there were so many things that had to happen that there was a strange kind of change in atmosphere when that had finished. And like, yeah, the water balloon analogy that you said of like how you go through like peaks and troughs and waves of swelling and then releasing. Yeah, I can I can remember that it was kind of cathartic in a way to finally get to be able to access that part of the journey. So I have a few things that I'd like to cover in this conversation today. And before we like dive straight into those juicy topics, I need to ask you the opening question for the podcast. So, tuning into what life is like right now in this moment, GPT, what's the best thing about being alive right now?
The fact that I can move my body,
Hmm.
and the fact, there's actually two things. The fact that well, it's two things that are connected. The fact that I can move my body in my 8-inch pole shoes. That's the best thing about life right in this moment.
Nice. I've been thoroughly enjoying witnessing your expressions of your divinity through this tool for your expression. It does seem like they have quite a powerful like way of transforming people who wear these incredible heels. I myself am not so skilled in extending my limbs like that, but it does look ever so glamorous.
Yeah, it feel I'm so tall in them. It's great, but you don't feel tall because obviously you're in a room full of like other people who are wearing them. Um, but it's just great because I feel like it makes you engage with your body in a different way because you have a kind of restriction on it because you have to navigate with this extra item, and they're very heavy, which is always a surprise to me when I try and do things that I would do without them on, and then I'm like, whoa, that's different, that's a lot harder, and I feel like that's kind of what this entire grieving thing is like. It's like you've just been whacked, but you didn't have a choice in putting the fucking heels on. They were just thrust upon you, and now you've got to like work out how to not fall over every 5 seconds,
Right.
or break your ankles because both of them are not helpful.
Whilst swinging these heavy ends of your limbs around, like trying to walk in a way that's efficient and not that you injure yourself
Yeah,
and fall off the edge of something.
you just try and stay in the flow and enjoy the music, but actually inside you're like, oh, is my ankle gonna buckle? But from
Well,
the outside, it might look, the internal passion is definitely like, oh my gosh, at times. Other times it's like a swallow on the breeze. But sometimes I'm in full mode of like, momentum is our friend, G. Momentum is actually the secret ingredient to so much I'm discovering through lots of my movement practices because I put a lot of pressure on myself to be like, oh, well, you should just be able to strength your way into that. It's like, why? Like, that's silly. That's really silly. Like, you're not a full-time athlete, mate. Just move in a fun way. And then as soon as you're like, oh, momentum's my friend, yeah.
referencing back to last episode, discussing that slipstream and the flow that you can get into. Yeah, no, and it's really interesting how our
Momentum helps you.
conversation, how it just then went into a bit of a flow where you initially answered the question with something very simple, being able to move in your huge stiletto heels. And then that
Yeah.
took us on a flowy journey into the metaphor for it being comparable to the grief journey. So, like,
Yeah.
following on from the flow, let's channel that slipstream and move into some of the content that we're going to cover today. So we previously have mentioned on in this episode just now about that big life event that has happened since the last time we spoke on the podcast. So to begin with, I'm wondering, would you like to tell us a bit about the day, the funeral, but also kind of what the experience of organising and hosting the day was like, and then just attending your mum's funeral as well?
Yeah. Wow. I feel like the day itself was really perfect for what it was. Sounds odd to describe a funeral as perfect because it's a paradox in itself. Like the fact that someone's gone is definitely not perfect. But the day I think is a day that my mum would have been very like proud of and proud of us. And I think it's a day that she would have enjoyed to be at. And I very much felt like we captured her spirit and like encouraged that in everyone, and yeah, tried to tap into the amazing things that she did with her life, as well as holding space for all the sadness. But actually it's really important to remember that she there's loads of things about my mum that I feel like it would have been a shame to not point out because they're sources of inspiration that could help other people. And my mum was a very caring, kind person, as well as being super feisty. And I feel like that feistiness helped her be so passionately caring about certain things, especially. So she worked with kids lots. throughout her career. She was like in safeguarding and in special needs, and she was such an advocate for like the underdog, and really like really amazing at making people realize something in themselves that was like worth pursuing or worth being around for. Like that sounds quite drastic, but genuinely my mum was so good at making people realize their own potential and their own worth. um and so I think, yeah, we'd like it would have been missed like opportunity to not lean into that as a way to honor her at the funeral as well, because she inspired people throughout her life. So you know she'll continue to do that even in her different space now. But in terms of the planning, it was long. I think it was long just because of the like gap between my mum's passing and the actual day of the funeral. It was like 6 weeks. And in some respects, like there's pros and cons to everything. Like the pros of that were that there was a real like snow globe effect of mourning for I think us, in that we were like allotted this sort of bubble to like pay loads of attention to our situation in. But equally, it was we were waiting, and we'd just been waiting, so that was frustrating. And then when the day sort of came around, I was grateful that we'd had time to make sure that it was, I guess, beautiful as it could be for my mum, because she deserves nothing less. And yeah, the day itself, the day before was a bit minging. Like the day before was actually gross because everyone was just so aware of what the next day was. And my brother cracked me and my dad up. So we went to the venue where the celebration of life was going to take place on the Thursday evening, because I wanted to set out like lots of stuff ready for the morning. And we had a drink there and sort of set everything up, made sure it was all right, took our time. And then Jack's also incredible at just coming out of these like one-liners throughout our life. Like our book of family quotes, Jack's got a really big section. And this one is definitely added to that. And I know my mum would have found this fucking hilarious. He just sat there with his pint as I'm like sort of putting the condolence book out and making everything look like nice and butterflies and stuff like that. And he just went, "This is like the shittest Christmas Eve ever, isn't it?" And me and my dad were like, "That is fully the feeling. Like that is full on such a good way of putting it. It is the day before your mum's funeral, whoever's funeral, someone that you love with all your heart's funeral. The day before really is like the shitest Christmas Eve ever." Um, and as soon as Jack pointed that out, we found it absolutely hilarious. And it was nice because there was like a bit of relief to be like, "Oh, fucking hell, yeah, like you are not supposed to enjoy this." So that almost puts the pressure off and being like, why am I trying to pretend that I'm happy? Because I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I guess like realizing that you can be really pissed off and angry, but still find the joy in a situation through the people that are experiencing it with you, because there's real like camaraderie and being like, we're experiencing a thing here and it's hard, but everyone's doing their best.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like my dad as well, like we had some sort of flammable interactions that day before the funeral, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying, because we're fairly fiery humans, as I've mentioned quite a lot. Um, so it's natural, and the way that we communicate in my family has between the four of us has always been very honest, which I really respect. And I am going to tell you what a conversation me and my dad had, because it is fucking funny. Like we were just all so like grieving and sad, and had been out for brunch, and um, Dad obviously was in a terrible mood, like completely understandable, completely respect that, so valid. What a gross day, what a gross situation. But he was being so like external with all of that that it was like really hard to interact with him without it becoming like a thing. And this is where I love like my brother, because he's just so calm and chilled, and he would my dad's like a Tasmanian devil sometimes. And my brother literally was stood in the doorway just about to leave for brunch because my dad's like, "Come on, we gotta go, we gotta go." And it's in my head, I'm like, what time are we like racing against here? Like, do you know what I mean? It's calm. And Jack just stood in the door and he went, "Right, Dad, are you going to be bringing this energy to brunch? Because if you are, I don't want to go." And I was just like, "Fair play, mate. Absolutely fair play." And Dad like giggled and was like, "No, I'm going to sort it out." And then like left the house and we all just followed him. Um, and then we went for brunch. We were all like, yeah, just really fucking not okay. And the energy of the day reflected that, because it wasn't a really relaxing experience having brunch. The orders were wrong. The orders were wrong. Things got misinterpreted. There was a point where I literally was like, maybe I'll just go home because they've tried to get me the right vegan brunch 3 times and it's just not happened. So maybe I'll just go home and like eat a mango or something. Um, but managed to soldier on through that. And yeah, I was really not in a good mental space by the time we got home. And I started, because I was conscious that I wanted to like put my energy into some creativity for the day that was coming up the next day. And like my mum's like condolences book, I wanted to do loads of bits and bobs with and had to talk about the golf club. So I think I was just like, why am I waiting for this brunch when I want to be somewhere else right now? So yeah, I went home and did that. And Dad and Jack went and hung out for a bit. I think it was good for everyone to have a bit of a break from each other. And what's really like lovely to think about, horrible to think about at the same time, is like I know that my mum would have been pissing herself because she'd always take the mick out of me and my dad bickering, because me and my dad can bicker and then like within 20 seconds just be like howling with laughter. It's like that's the sort of relationship we have. And yeah, when they got back home, I was doing stuff for the funeral, and then Jack went upstairs to play The Witcher. Shout out to The Witcher for helping my brother through some emotional turmoil at this time. Um, and yeah, I was downstairs with Dad, and we had to sign the cards for the flowers, which is not a fun job really because it's very emotional. But I was a bit like, please don't speak to me, Dad. In my head, I'm like, I know he was very aware, and I think he had the exact same reaction to me. I think in his head he was like, George is an arsehole, and in my head I was like, Dad's an arsehole. So we were quite content in our mutual feeling for each other. And then we were signing the cards, and my dad wrote the most beautiful message. And it was a really lovely moment because my dad's dyslexic, and he wanted me to like double check the writing and stuff. So I did that with him and was like reading it and was like, oh my God, this is amazing, this message my dad's written. And then wrote mine, and then Dad was like, oh, I'll read yours. And he like started reading it loud, got like 3 lines in, and then he started crying, and then I was crying, but I was crying quietly. So then he turned around to me and he was like, George, can you read it? And I was like, no, I can't. And he was like, oh, are you crying? And I was like, yeah, I'm crying. And then like we were both crying, really upset. And then he turned around to me, and this is the way that like cracks me up with my dad, because he was like, "Can you just come here?" and like gave me a cuddle. And he was like, "I know I've been an arsehole today, but you've been an arsehole as well." And then he cracked me up because he was like, "But you know what they say about two arseholes? They make a right pair with cheeks." And then we were like cracking up. And then he was just like, "Right, should we get the fuck out of this house now? Because yeah, we're going to flood the place if we stay here. And I was like, yep, fair enough. So then we all went to the golf club where the celebration of life is taking place and sorted that out. But yeah, that day was actually, I'd say the day before the funeral was foggier than the actual funeral.
It sounds like a lot of different experiences and emotions happened in the space of a day. And that sounds like a bit of a time warp. And also, props to Jack for banking quite a few mega family quotes on that crazy day of your guys' life. The wildest Christmas Eve you could anticipate, he's still popping out the
Yeah.
one-liners.
Yeah. And it did, like, I really appreciate that about the way that my parents have always handled things. So now me and Jack have a very good sense of humor when it comes to adversity, and actually it does see you through. And I think people can sometimes get it wrong in terms of assuming that just because someone's able to make a joke means they're not taking something seriously. And it's actually the art for me, it feels the opposite, because if you can engage with something enough to make a joke about it, it means that you're paying attention to it and that you're sat with it and that you're trying to understand it. Um, so I think actually, I mean, obviously there's a time and a place for certain bits and bobs that come out of specifically my dad's mouth, because there's like a coping mechanism. He can just, like, when my mum was poorly, he'd come out with things where all three of us would be like, right, that one's staying in this room. And it's just dark sense of humor to kind of try and make a bit of light out of a really horrendous situation. And my dad is notorious for creating tumbleweed anyway, with like sequences. Like, he is hilarious. Like, I genuinely believe that man could still be, who knows, a comedian. Like, I'm not joking you. He is really very witty and clever. Um, but sometimes very dark.
The ability to like send a room silent with a questionable joke, and then inside everybody's actually creasing and laughing very hard, but it's not quite socially acceptable to laugh at this one outside.
No, and like, you need to know your like realm of people. Like, when he's with, me and Jack, very safe environment. Like, no one's gonna be like, "Are you all right?" Or, it's just gonna be like, "Right, well, Dad's grieving his wife with like nearly 40 years, so yeah, we'll give him that one. We'll never repeat what just happened, but yeah."
And for your family memory book, I'm sure that there's a few quotes in there that will only ever be for you and descendants to come. And that's also part of the treasure, I think, of like archiving some of these things, is that it adds to the holistic picture of what the human experience is like. Like, we're not all these
Yeah,
presentable, palatable like beings. There are kind of vulgar and grotesque parts of us that are just as valuable and like informative of who we are as people, than the bits that we want to
yeah.
sell other people and tell them and show off.
Yeah, totally. And then, like, I think it's actually really important to sometimes have space for like the weirder stuff. Like, as long as it's, not like actively like hurting anyone. And that's the thing with my dad, like, none of the stuff that comes out of his mouth is ever like oppressive. It's just sometimes really dark, is what I would say. I would say dark rather than like oppressively offensive to anyone. It's just a bit like, oh, your brain went there, which can be very, very funny. A
Uh,
bit like Inside Number Nine on steroids.
Inside Number Nine, shout out Inside Number Nine. Some really good writing on that show.
Yeah, yeah, and you've met my dad, and like, he's got that presence of just like wacky, like, did he just say that?
I can testify. And
Sort of thing.
to be honest,
Yeah.
the whole of your family dynamic is a little bit like, it wouldn't surprise me if occasionally you guys cut to camera and like had a little like, yeah, breaking the fourth wall moment, chatting to, hey universe, I see what you're doing here.
Do you know what? That's jokes that you've said that, because other people have said that to me when they've like spent time with me and my family. Being like, it feels like you're in a sort of Fleabag sort of family sitcom where you all just have your moments of like breaking the fourth wall and being like, or like Modern Family sort of situation where people are just like pulling side eyes, like.
Yeah. Well, maybe this is the beginning of manifesting a reality TV show for the Taylors. Who knows?
Oh my gosh,
The
that
beginning
would
of your
be
dad's
something.
comedy
That would be like
career.
the anti-reality. Yeah, I'm genuinely planting seeds left, right, and centre for that. To be fair, he's already got a podcast idea on the go. It's going to be called Making a Mark, and it's basically just him monologuing about an issue of the day,
Okay, making a
and my
mark.
brother's facilitating it.
We'll be promoting this by the time this episode comes out. Making a mark will be making a mark on the world. Yes, I'll definitely be blowing that trumpet. Thanks for sharing some like informative kind of spectrum of what that day before was like for you. And I'm wondering, kind of, in this part of the conversation, if there's anything that you'd like to bring into this podcast space as a memento of the
Yeah,
process. Is there anything from
yeah,
the day or from your experience that you'd like to share with people?
yeah. So I'm kind of amazed by like people that were there, because they like, it was just a really amazing energy. Um, like the service was bang on. I was really grateful to the priest. Yeah, Father Nick. He really did. I feel like I was just very grateful because I feel like our needs were met by everyone that was involved in the service and the facilitation of the day. And I'm very grateful for that, because it's very easy to like not have something quite right and then be really upset about it. But we've got a few things that I've like. So we asked everyone who was attending to wear a splash of colour or a um like small blue butterfly somewhere on their outfit. And I'm so pleased that we did this, because it was really beautiful, because people really did make an effort. Um, and these butterflies were on the flowers, and they're very, very pretty. And we've kept lots of them, and yeah, been sort of passing them on to people to sort of say like, here's a little marker of that day. Um, I've got another couple of bits that are like, this isn't necessarily from the funeral day itself, but I just really like this. So it's a little blue crochet heart. And after our first meeting with the funeral directors, the lady that was like looking after us, it was a really lovely touch, I thought. There was two hearts in here attached together, and then she cut them, gave us this one, and then she went and popped the other heart into Mum's hand. So I really liked that. I thought that was a very lovely sort of symbolic gesture. And then I've got this, which you gifted me because you're a legend. I've been writing in it since my mum passed away. And yeah, I'll give you a little flick through. There you go. Gosh,
Oh,
that's a fun one. That's a Harrods receipt from the last time me and mum went to Harrods, because we used to go to Harrods and just laugh at how expensive everything was. Um, and in the back, there's like a little envelope. So I've just got a couple of the little bits and bobs that we sorted out for the funeral. So this was the order of service. I was really happy. Really love that photo as well, because I feel like it just encaptures my mum's spirit. Like, she's very carefree and having a good time there. But yeah, this is the picture on the back as well. And what was really cool was that loads of people just came up to me and were like, didn't realise there's a picture of you on the back. And like my mum's school teacher, actually, she absolutely loved um this man. He was a school teacher for my mum's, and they kept in touch throughout the years. And he came to the funeral, and he came straight up to me, and he immediately said, "I remember this photo being taken," which I was like, "Wow, that's really cool." And then he was like, spitting image. And I was like, wow. And I think for me, because like, you see yourself in the mirror a lot and you just don't necessarily associate it, but seeing or like hearing other people just continuously come up to me and acknowledge the resemblance that I have to my mum, um, is actually really nice. And like me and Jack both shared the eulogy responsibility during the service, and my auntie, she said that the reason she like got emotional whilst I was doing it was actually because she thought that my mannerisms and the way that I spoke was very Sherry. Um, which, yeah, again, like it's amazing how things pass through generations, and I'm very grateful that she's living on via her blood relatives, and by not even just blood relatives, but just by people that like spent a lot of time in her presence. Um, and then I also made these as like a little memento. I can get it out. There you go. I made some bookmarks because my mum really likes studying and reading. And I like the idea that my mum will be falling out of books in like 20 years' time. So I made a bookmark.
What does
Um,
it say on the back there?
yeah, it's a Rupi Kaur poem. Sorry. And it's actually about sunflowers, but it works for butterflies too, I think, because it says, despite knowing they won't be here long, they still choose to live their brightest lives, which I just think is a really nice little sentiment. So yeah, made those. And another thing as well, didn't I, G? Oh yeah, this was my dad's idea. Um, so there's a poem that he really liked that I think my mum actually sent him when my nan died. On the other side of it is this illustration that I did of my mum. Um,
And
so
this
like
is the picture that
we
when I look at it, I think you look just like her. When I look at that picture.
what that is in
Yeah.
the actual picture of it.
And your drawing. I think that's the one for me that I can really see you and her and you.
I think I actually have that picture here right now, so we can have a peek. Because then, yeah, the other thing that I have that one of my mum's friends gave me very kindly because he saw it and thought for me is a butterfly box, and I've started turning it into like a little memory box for my mum. And yeah, so there's like photos. There's some letters that she sent me whilst I was at drama school because she just one day I got a letter in the post when I was living, and I was like, oh, it's from mum. What's she sending me? And it was a letter, and she just said that she thought that letter writing is a lost art form, and she wanted to reunite it with me. So we sent each other a couple of letters. That's the photo that you're on about. That one. That's what you mean.
Yeah. When you guys are just like,
Yeah.
like somebody said something funny and you turn around and you smile, you both have that exact expression.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's actually probably not. That's mum in her 20s, I'd say.
Right, you close
But
in
my mum
age
looked
there.
ridiculously young. Yeah. So, and then these are like my eulogy notes and stuff. Um, and the book of condolences. This is a very sacred object now because this has got lots of bits and bobs in, and there it is again. And it's like I saved the cards from the flowers and yeah, just stuck in all the stuff that we've done to honour her. Um, and like sympathy cards and letters that people have written. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna put in that book as well. Oh yeah, and then the final thing that I thought was so lovely is one of my mum's really, really close pals. Same friend that bought the butterfly box. He had some t-shirts printed because of the events I'm doing. So he was thinking like people that come and support me can wear these. So and it's very Sherry Taylor, like she'd be very happy about this because it's not in your face, it's very subtle, pretty classy.
Just to
So it's like
confirm, you're
pull up
talking about
t-shirt.
So just to confirm, you're talking about the challenges that you're doing, the physical challenges. So your 10K, your swim, your yeah.
Yeah, so the things that I'm doing to raise money for the charities that assisted my mum while she was ill, uh, these were the intention behind these from my mum's friend, was that people who come and support me whilst I'm doing these challenges can wear these so that, you know, like there's a gang of Sherry supporters. So yeah, there's like a little embroidered thing on the sleeve, which I think is amazing. And again, it's a butterfly. Oh yeah, kind of see
so
it.
pretty.
So yeah, feeling very grateful for like the life that my mum led, really, and the people that have really like shown up in this time. It is a like classic thing that people say, but like you really do understand who means business in terms of having a position in your life when stuff like this happens. And I'm absolutely heartbroken that I don't have uh my mum here anymore. But what I've been amazed at, and I think my mum would be like so incredibly grateful and yeah, just overwhelmed at, is that I feel like I've had an abundance of mothering from not only women in my life, but like some of the men as well, and actually some of the older men. It's made me really think about like men, just and how amazing their role is in life, um, and how beautiful it is when men are able to tap into like their emotional intelligence in a way that's healthy and courageous. And I'm really grateful to like lots of my dad's friends as well, because they've really stepped up to support him and me and my brother. But yeah, there's been so many women as well who just have like subtly mothered me through like in little ways, which has been really, really appreciated. Um, yeah,
I found in my experience that when like death strikes, when grief is then the all-consuming like world that you're in, it reinforces the value of just our basic human needs to connect, like have some relativity to our experience, have people go like, no, this is really tough, or like it's okay to laugh, or like actually having an external bit of feedback from other human beings who everybody goes through this experience at some point in their life. But we kind of,
yeah,
I guess it kind of becomes just forgotten about in the hubbub of everyday life. But then when you're struck with something happening, there is like a clearing of the fog, and it's like, oh, it's so blatant. This is like what makes us human. The fact that we're now emoting, the fact that we're congregating in celebration, that there is this catharsis
yeah,
or a collective experience.
yeah. Yeah, and suddenly being like really appreciative of like family, but family as a not like as a literal word, but as the community that surrounds you. Because for everybody, obviously, like there's no normal family because there's so many different, but there's a feeling of family that is universal and can be universally recognized. And I think this absolute shit show of an experience has supercharged my understanding of what that is.
Hmm. No, it's really useful, like for me to even hear how that experience. There are similar aspects of the journey that have come up for you, but also like where the differences are, and the differences are just as informative and valuable in like understanding that relativity of this crazy experience that we're all born, we all die, and then there's this in between bit that we've got to try and make sense of it all. So even if what you've been through isn't completely resonant with what I'm going through, there is this resonant like through line between us that we are all going through this human experience. Hello, lovely listeners. I've got a little interlude for you. So, this first series of the Grief Tapes is very close to my heart, and it's been incredible to spend a year creating these episodes with a dear friend of mine. As you know, in January 2024, Georgia lost her amazing mum, Sherry, to an aggressive type of brain cancer. Since then, G and I have met monthly to record her journey through the first year of life without her mum, and these conversations have been very special, so it's an honour really to be releasing them on the Vita and Echo podcast here. Last year, Georgia also challenged herself to complete some awesome physical feats, which she smashed and raised over £9,000 for two charities that supported her mum and family throughout Sherry's illness. First of these is the Woking Hospice, which provides holistic care for patients with life-limiting and terminal illnesses, and second is the Fountain Centre, which supports the emotional, physical and spiritual well-being of those affected by cancer. This podcast is completely free to listen to. We want whoever needs it to be able to find it, and so episodes are available on most platforms. But if you're drawn to give a token of support for G and the sharing of her story, please consider donating to her new Just Giving page that has been set up for us listeners. Georgia's less than £1,000 away from hitting 10k, which is an amount which could make a real difference in the lives and families of those experiencing similar illnesses as G's mum. So if you could pop in the price of a coffee or pay forward a pint in honour of our Sherry, I am sure it will be more than appreciated. Details of where to find G's campaign will be in the episode notes, and links are in various places across our online platforms too. Please do follow us, reach out, engage with our content. It'd be lovely to connect with you. And finally, and I guess most importantly, please accept our invitation to send this podcast to someone you think would appreciate some time to listen and take stock of life's echoes. Big up to all my fellow human grief tenders, world benders and heart menders. I see you. We've got this. Now let's get back to it.
Yeah, and yeah, like it's kind of another cliche, but it kind of dawned on me the other day that like it's true to life that you really do get out what you put in, and if you like fully engage with stuff, despite the fact that it can get really uncomfortable or it can be really painful, the depth of your despair is like the height of your joy. So, like, why would you want to live in the safe zone? Because you don't learn anything there, you just exist. You don't thrive, but you're also not really surviving. You're just comfortable. Like you're not having that extreme of like, oh, I'm having to like fight for my breath every second, but you're also not going like, wow, I am abundant. You're just in this little like bed sit of existence um that houses you.
If you like numb yourself to that bottom layer, then how are you going to be able to feel the sensations of the top? Because it's like the same, like the spectrum becomes a circle. It's no longer a straight line that things are measured on. It like all joins back together. So at those two distinct like polarities, if you're not allowing yourself to feel the deep dark shadow stuff, then like yeah, the depth of your despair and the height of your like joy is going to be like dimmed and dimmed and dimmed until you're just like okay. And I found myself in situations where I've numbed myself deliberately as like a coping mechanism or to be able to get through a situation. But you're totally right. If I don't allow myself to feel the fullness of the experience, then there's no peak to the trough because it just levels the waters.
Yeah, totally. And obviously everyone's different and has different needs and different like desires. But for me personally, I always end up grateful for the ride, which sounds like quite a bold thing to say because some really horrible things happen. And that doesn't mean that I'm grateful that horrible things happen. It just means that I am willing to look at it in the face I might not do that straight away because, like you said, I have my mechanisms where I'm like, oh no, I'm just gonna crawl into a hole for a bit. But I always know that there will come a day where I'll want to look it in the face, and I'd always rather do that than live the rest of my life in the hole. I mean, by all means, I take vacations in the hole, but I'd say I'd live more a higher percentage outside of it.
I'm wondering now, kind of, that we've gone through a bit of an arc of going through what the process of the funeral was like, and moving into this space of like the things around you that are kind of unlocking some of these deeper downloads and experiences. You mentioned and shared with me the other day that you attended an ecstatic dance event. I was wondering if you wanted to tell us a little bit here about what ecstatic dance is, why did you go, and what was that experience like for you, kind of touching on the things that we've just been speaking about.
Yeah, it's really nice actually because as you started reminding me about that aspect of like what I've been doing recently, I just immediately felt like joy. I was just like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's such a sacred factor, and I'm so pleased that I went the other day. Also, I just want to point out that my first experience with ecstatic dance is because of you. So, thank you, because without your dissertation, mate, um, I wouldn't have been able to access such a powerful like healing tool, especially at this time. So thanks, G.
Oh, bless, no problem.
Um,
A little bit of context there. When we were at drama school in my third year, I did a dissertation project on the like kind of phenomenological sensory experience of ecstatic dance and what that can unlock. So that's how G was introduced.
yeah, I know it just made me think as well because when I was at the dance on Friday, I'll go into it in more depth, but I did have a really gorgeous little moment where I was like, oh, do you remember all those times in the studio where like you'd watch me do an ecstatic dance, then we'd reflect on it, and it was so fun. Anyway, there's a little nugget, and I was just like, I almost had a sensation that I was like, oh, I've got like a tiny little G just watching me, watching over me. I'm very safe in this movement exploration. Um, so yeah, the ecstatic dance was on Friday, and I've been to quite a few ecstatic dances in London. They're always great. I actually went to one. The last time I went to one was in the summer. And basically, an ecstatic dance is the ones that I've been to. They're always sober. They're always very wellness driven and like intentional raving, I guess. And utilizing movement as a really spiritual practice, and community is at the heart of that as well, because yeah, the fact that there's loads of people dancing with you really does add to your entire interpretation of the experience. So yeah, the format is there's a wave of different textures musically and physically, and as a dancer you don't really have to know the ins and outs of the like format. You just have to show up and move to what you're inspired by. Um, and yeah, normally the ones that I've been to, there's usually a cacao ceremony, and there's usually like a meditation opening and closing, and there's also usually like an altar somewhere in the space that's a place for people to go and maybe meditate on their own if it gets a bit overwhelming or if that's what they need. Because it can get intense. Like they're usually like 2 to 3 hours of just like solid dancing. And everything about this ecstatic dance on Friday was just absolutely perfect for like what I need at this point in time. It was a full moon, like already that is beautiful. It was, I now know this from the other side because I've come on my period, but it was the day before I started my period, which is always like a really bubbly day. So very charged anyway.
Powerful, syncing
Um
up with the full moon there, and yeah,
Yeah, and
strong.
also, yeah, I've told you I'm reading this book called The Women Who Run with the Wolves. I'll shout it out right here. And also Pinkola Estes. It's amazing. So, like, obviously, wolves and full moons go hand in hand. Um, and wolves love to dance as well. Bet you didn't know that. And
And the
Yeah,
community
so
aspect as well.
yeah, the pack mentality, the like willingness to use all their senses. Yeah, so Friday full moon, charged, and in the first meditation, also it's a very beautiful space that they set up, and there's like really amazing tapestries. And the first thing that struck me actually was there was a massive like psychedelic lion tapestry, and it was the first thing that I made eye contact with. And the lighting is beautiful, and there's like a big like lit up sign that just says love. So it's a really safe space that you just walk into and you're like, okay, this is gonna be great. But yeah, this lion, and my mum's star sign was a Leo, and she very much identified with lions as an animal. And I just immediately saw the lion and just had a bit of a giggle because I was like, oh, hiya, mum. Um, and yeah, in both meditations I cried, but very potently and very like calmly. It was more like a tap being turned on because I was meditating with my eyes closed, but I was really, yeah, it was just like a very natural, like it's here, and it was falling quite at quite a pace. Um, and then as soon as we started dancing, that sort of went away. And the intentions that I took into the space for me, which are things that my mum has been trying to champion me for my entire life to get me to actually start believing on my own, was to let go and to just like step into that complete love of self, in that real radical self-love sense of I am who I am right now, and that is great. And that's the intentions that I took into the space. I had a great time. I had a really wonderful time. Yeah, I was able to like sit with all the sort of like insecurities that pop up. Like I was wearing this halter neck, um, and I chose to not put a bra on because I didn't want to. But then I like immediately, because I'm like really going for it, I was like, oh my God, my boobs are like, and I literally, I could hear my mum being like, give a fuck, like give an actual fuck. I could literally hear my mum being like, if people want to stare at you, let them. And I was just like, gosh, she's so right. And then that just went out the window. And then I started thinking about my nan a lot as well, because so I'm from a big Irish family, and I've grown up with dancing, and I've grown up with like different contexts for dancing, and one of the most potent ones is from like a tiny child. I can remember on Saturday nights we go to the Irish Association, and there'd be an Irish dance on, and it would be all these, from my little brain, it was all these old people who like just danced to Irish music for like 3 hours. Um, and then my mum and like her age group of friends as well, and my family. And so dancing was such a thing for my nan as well. And I had a real like lovely moment of thinking about the fact that that love of dance, my nan really had it, my mum really had it, and I really have, like, I love it so much. And I just felt like, wow, this is such a lovely way to connect with both of them as a solo female in a space. And so yeah, I carried that with me. And then when it finished, again, meditation to end, and same sort of thing with the tears, but it was like full emotion, kind of a bit like, do you know what it made me think of? Like how I describe it as a feeling is, in Harry Potter, I think it's like the last ever one. Yeah, it has to be. Is it that one? Yeah, it is. Spoilers, I'm sure, everyone knows now. But Snape, when he's like dying, that tear comes out, and like Harry puts it in the vial. That's what those tears felt like. They felt that shimmery, and they felt that dense. And I felt like if you bottled them up, and you had a pensieve like somewhere in your cupboard, you might be able to just like zap into every single beautiful moment that I've ever had with my mum.
You got the elixir of life
Um,
dripping down your cheek.
yeah, yeah, and I was very grateful about it. And then ate some fruit and went home. Had a great time.
So that sounds like a lovely container, that like a lot was expressed and explored in that few hours of ecstatic dance. Now, like after that experience, what do you think is like a key takeaway for you that you'd like to pass on to people who might be interested in that?
Um, in the nicest way possible. Like I'm talking, this is a conversation that I've had to have with myself so many times. Is to just like fuck off the part of you that has any worries about what you're gonna look like, what people are gonna think. Oh, she's a bit woo woo. She went to an ecstatic dance and she actually enjoyed herself without being on any substances. Oh, don't want to fraternize with someone like just get that gone immediately, because like I guess just trust that the payout for like that Florence Given, Women Don't Owe You Pretty author. I love her mentality around cringe, and she sort of puts it out there that if you're making yourself cringe, you are on the right path, my friend. Because on the other side of cringe is absolute freedom. And like the earlier you can get to that point in life, because if you look at people as they age, aging is wonderful for liberation because people stop giving a fuck. But if you can tap into that earlier, you're gonna have so many more years of like genuinely enjoying your own company. And I'd say that ecstatic dance could be the tool for you to start accessing that. And also, like, if you're thinking about it, just go and do it because you'll be surrounded by people who are gonna encourage this instinct. No one there is gonna be like, oh my gosh, what? No one there is. Everyone there is more enjoying themselves, and they'll honestly, I just think ecstatic dance is something that everyone should experience. And the more scared you are of doing it, the more you need it, in my opinion.
Embrace the cringe is where the lessons are.
Embrace the cringe, like fully just like look it in the face, give it a cuddle. Because cringe is like an entire concept that's kind of formulated to keep us a bit reserved so that we're not too much to deal with. But allowing cringe to control you has its own price, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that I'm starting to train the muscle that recognizes cringe, has a moment of like, "Ooh," and then goes, fuck it, and just heads on in anyway. Because you'll meet the people that are on your level when you start doing that as well. And that's really like gorgeous in itself. And you don't know who you'll be inspiring behind you. You might turn around one day and be like, oh my God, you've dived into the cringe as well. I'm so proud of you. And it's just joyous.
And
Ecstatic dance isn't actually cringe, by the way. I'm just saying that, but like, I think that's the feeling that that people who don't know about, I guess, spiritual practices. I'd say the mainstream interpretation of people who enjoy holistic ways of looking at the world think they're a bit strange, but actually lean into the strange is what I'm saying.
right, for
It's
if
like
there's
just
any
stop
like
overthinking the strange and just do it.
preconceived stuff about it, give it a go and try it out. I mean, even myself, I have like judgments on how I would imagine myself to feel in that public context of doing something like this. But like you say, how are you ever going to be able to access what that would feel like if you don't allow yourself to embrace the cringe and get over it? And I think it kind of again relates back to what we were discussing previously about the like the if you don't allow yourself to feel the different parts of the spectrum, then like if you've never felt cringe, you won't know what it's like to feel like, I don't know, like
Like
completely
fully
confident in
warmth.
what, yeah, like I don't know what the polar aspect of that would be. But yeah, if you can't feel the cringe, then how are you going to access the other side of it?
I would say, like, what popped into my head there is the opposite to cringe is empowerment. Is like, because usually acts that involve cringe leads to empowerment because you either fail or succeed in your own brain about this thing. But either way, you end up growing, and that's where empowerment comes from.
Mm-hmm. And when you're talking just then, I got through a little bit of how cringe is kind of giving the power to the how the outside is viewing you rather than switching it round and giving the power to how you're radiating in expression. It's like one's a perception and one's an expression.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you have a flower, it blooms from the inside. And if it was to bloom from the outside, then it would just be a drawing or a painting, and it would be an interpretation of a flower rather than the actual thing.
Well, actually, when you were talking about that again just then, like a flower blooms outwards, yes, and that's like a release, an expression. But if it was to physically bloom in on itself, that feels a bit like a cringe, like a kind of, oh, I'm crumpling myself inside of myself. I'm like shaming myself into compression, compress, rather than let myself feel something and move through it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Wow.
Some juicy
I really
nuggets there,
felt that
everybody.
internally.
That cringe. It's like, flower blooming inwards. Yeah. Sorry for all the grotesque noises that people would have got through the microphones just then, but that is the noise of a flower cringing.
Sorry about that, everyone. This is an immersive experience for you.
Yeah, 4D, everybody. Coming at you through your screens. So now there's not really any time limit to our conversations ever, but I was wondering if to kind of move this episode into like the next closing chapters, whether it would feel good for you to talk a little bit about what does like thinking about your future feel like. We've spoken a bit about how you have different tools and mechanisms that you're grateful for in your life. So like considering all factors and where you are on this February afternoon, what does it feel like to think about your future? And is there anything you're looking forward to that you'd like to bring in? Anything that you're anticipating that feels intimidating? Or I don't know, you lead where we'd like to take us, but I'm curious about what that's like at this point in your journey.
My natural instinct was to like have a little giggle when he said like, "How you feel about your future?" Like, and I think that's funny now because of like the horrendous fact that future is not a promised deal. So, and like I've just experienced that through like my mum's ordeal, like really up close and personal. So yeah, I guess I really feel like I'm trying to listen a lot more to my like heart and kind of fuck off what I think I should be doing. And things have been starting to clear up quite rapidly. And I'm starting to, again, like I'm being able to understand when cringe pops up. I'm starting to understand when like there's a real intuitive pull towards something, then maybe I should go and investigate. And right now, I might be a bit mysterious about this, Jay. I feel like writing is a big thing. Moving feels like a big yes, please. Yeah, and community. That's another big word in big capital letters that keeps popping up as like a real, this is great. And I was talking to someone yesterday, very close to me on the phone, having a big old chat and check-in about life. And what I actually said to them about future yesterday was, I don't know what it looks like, but I really feel like I'm on the correct path. I have a really overwhelming sensation that I just need to keep going and keep doing the hard work, but then also keep acknowledging the celebrations, you know. But I just it's rough out here at the moment. I'm not gonna lie to you, like it's it's mental at times. Like every day I feel like there's a whole rhythm and arc that is slightly different to the day before, might be really different. Sometimes it's jagged and it's sharp. Other days it's rolling, but there's gaps in it. And you know, if I was a character in a video game, it's like I'm going through all the terrains that exist on Super Mario, like but no one's telling me that I'm in World 8. For those Super Mario lovers out there, you're gonna love this. But like it's like jumping from worlds, like, oh, I'm in the snow zone now, or like, oh, I'm in a desert. And yeah, I think it's about, for me, like not worrying about what environment I'm in, just worrying about how I'm relating to it. And really, really like dancing to the beat of your own drum, which is a phrase that my mum used, and I really feel that as a like a really good thing now. As long as you have, you know, a lot of empathy and like it's like Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Like if you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do my own thing, like great, but don't be an arsehole about it. Do it for the right reasons. You know, don't just be like, oh, I'm gonna go burn this tree down. Like, don't do that. But like if you have a calling and it's different to what other people do, like try and lean into like what feels right for you. And I feel like that's what's guiding me at the moment. And it's making me giggle because I can almost feel my mum like laughing at me because it's what she's basically told me to do my entire life. And I have been doing it, like don't get me wrong, but I feel like because she's not here to physically remind me when I'm like, what am I doing? And she'd always be like, you're doing what you want to do with your life, which is great. I now have to really like make a secure connection to that truth myself because she's not here to help me tie it back down every time. She's still about, obviously, but she can't respond to me in the way that I've been dependent on in the past. But yeah,
Mm.
so I feel excited about the future at the same time as being sad about the fact that my mum's not in it in the in the way that I'm accustomed to, shall I say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, there are those just like factors of life that you're not gonna get to experience. For me, quite a big thing was like my dad's never gonna see me get married. Like that's really big.
Yeah,
Like that felt like a big wound. But then there is those other parts of the relationship that I can now access that I didn't have access to before, which feels very sacred, which feels very connected. So yeah, obviously there are those
yeah,
two polar sides, but I really hear in what you're saying that there is a path that you're stepping upon, and you're feeling the grass beneath your feet along the way, and being able to take a breath
yeah,
and look at the view so that you're not just focusing on the end of the tunnel.
yeah, absolutely. And like it feels really nice in terms of timing that we're about to head into spring because if anyone ever fucking needed a spring right now, I feel like my family could really do with a spring and a summer. Like obviously everyone, but I just think in the context of the events that have just occurred, a real visual, symbolic support from some sunshine and from some like plant growth.
Sign of life, the
Uh,
butterflies will be flitting around, the
the
blossoms will be
butterflies,
blooming, the flowers shall not be cringing any longer, they'll be expressing their
no,
petals.
they won't. They won't be second guessing their blossom. They'll be like,
Mm,
"Boff, here you go,
mm.
mate. These are my petals. Come and get them."
It's like that awkward
So
tension when the daffodil is like just about to like release and let go, and you can see the yellow like about to go, but it's like you're
yeah.
holding on, man. Stop resisting.
Gee, what's the alternative? Like that poor little daffodil, same as us, when we're about to like step into our authenticity, we're going like, oh, I don't trust it. I just envisioned the opposite for a daffodil would be that it would just like make a little fart noise before it blossomed and then just like fall off the stem and just be like, oh, fucked it. And it's like, you don't want that. Come on, mate.
Wah, wah,
Like,
wah.
yeah, and then all its mates are sort of looking down at him, just like, oh shit. So like, oh, you've got to take the leap. You've got to take the leap.
There's been some great one-liners today, G. I've thoroughly enjoyed some of these metaphors.
Oh goodness, the hilarity and chaos of griefs. That's what they're from. Is like people probably like is she all right? And it's like, genuinely, I'm just so charged with like every single emotion that exists. Like every single one.
No, all emotions are welcome here. Like we said at the beginning, like whatever, however we present ourselves, whatever comes out, comes out.
I feel like this fleece. I feel like this fleece. That's how I feel. Like practical, keeping you warm. Uh, you know, I don't know. I feel like,
Plenty of room for
it
activities.
wouldn't, but it wouldn't be encouraged to wear on a club night out. So potentially a bit cringe if I wore this to like, I don't know, a
Maybe just like
party.
your sweatiness might make you cringe. But like you were saying,
Yeah,
why don't you challenge
absolutely.
yourself and wear this jumper to like a formal dinner or something and feel that cringe
Yeah.
and express and bloom anyway?
And sort of look people in the eye and be like, say something.
Yeah. I think a good way to kind of end this podcast would be to challenge everybody to go and find a situation where you can safely, that's not going to like put you into like a nervous system overload, but somewhere where you can safely feel into cringe and see what that feels like. So to round up, G, do you have anything that you'd like to like mention before I ask you the final question?
Just maybe what I didn't say actually, which I think is important, is I feel like funerals are really important for people to have to help them like process grief properly. So I guess the importance of ceremony.
Mm-hmm. Well, that kind of leads on nicely into the final question, which is there a question that I didn't ask you today? And if so, what is it? How would you answer it?
Is there a question that you didn't ask me today? I don't think there is, G. You really smashed them out. Did what would I have liked to have been asked? I would like to have been asked, so how are you doing as a household with your, you know, daily chores and stuff in this time of grieving? Because I then would have replied to you. It's not cry for help, by the way, listeners. It's just fact. I would have then replied to you, there is not a vegetable in sight. There's no fruit in the fruit bowl. Run out of tea, which is a travesty in this house. Well, when I say that, no decaf. But like, we need a regroup, is what I'm saying. But everyone's doing their best. So there we go. But yeah, that's all. Because I feel like that's important to acknowledge is like the domestic side of grieving is really hard as well.
There's a lot
Because
of
look at my hair
mundane.
as well. I've chosen like I haven't washed it, but almost as like a rebellion to be like, oh, I'm trying to expect myself to wash it. I'm gonna go for as long as possible, and I have the luxury of having long hair, so I can just like, I don't know, spray it with a bit of deodorant every now and then. Don't do that; it's probably really bad for your hair. But yeah,
Disclaimer, guys:
things
Vita
like
and
that.
Echo does not condone spraying deodorant in your hair. You
Don't do that.
answer to GPT for that one.
But yeah, things like that. Like I sent you a vid the other day of me just walking out of my room, and it was in an absolute state. And I was actually like really happy with myself because I was like, look at me go. I'm not putting pressure on myself to like make my bed if I can't at the moment. I'm coming home when I'm in a better headspace and then sorting my room out when I can. But I'm not going, oh, you haven't put that thing back on the shelf immediately. It's like, oh, I'm busy being really fucking sad, actually. So yeah.
Yeah, no, embrace the mess because it's not a clean experience to go through the emotional roller coaster of loss and grief. Like, there's not a sanitized version of emoting, so there's going to be some like material evidence of that in the world around you. But I guess it's really useful and interesting to hear and be shared with some of your experiences and responses to, for example, mess and like leaving stuff out or like having a bit of like clutter
Yeah.
around and stuff, because the environment that me and my family have lived within in the last few years is very cluttered and a lot of stuff on top of us that it's become like almost like normalized, and we're like living within that. So then when you shared that with me, it was a really useful reflection to be able to go like, whoa, no, like this isn't effective or efficient for us to be like necessarily living in this way. But people have a different mess radar. I think for some people it's very obvious
Yeah,
when something's messy because they live quite a clean life, but then when there's so much mess
yeah,
all around, it kind of, then you forget that it's even messy, and then it's a moment of like, oh whoa, like my life is a mess.
yeah. Yeah, but also like you said, like so many things influence that, like how we've, you know, how our parents uh react to spaces in different states of
Mm-hmm.
tidiness and things. And I think my dad's definitely quite militant, so I have
Mm-hmm.
quite a like high bar that's sometimes unfair, I think. Sorry, Dad, listening. Um, because then I'll like give myself a really hard time if I walk out the house and I haven't made my bed, like for the first time in like a year.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have a day where I'm just like, you're a piece of shit. And it's like, no, you're not, mate. Just a human. And vice versa, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I suppose it's also similar to one of those things, like, I don't know, growing up, people would always be like, oh, I love your curly hair. And I'll be like, well, it's horrible to have to brush it. I really want straight hair. But then as I've grown up, I've actually grown in. I enjoy my curly hair now. Like, so actually, in the adult
Yeah,
world, being tidy and having that clean radar functions really well. But like, there has to be a
yeah,
kind of self acceptance and, like you mentioned before, a radical self-love, no matter our levels
yeah. A
of cleanliness
compassion
radar.
at the heart of
Compassion.
all the things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Well, thank you for a really informative, adventurous, and curious conversation today, G. That felt really nice to re-enter back into this space with you. And like I mentioned before, I'm just ever so honoured that you're sharing this journey with us on this platform. And we look forward to seeing what next month is like in the month of March.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? The lambs are being born
Listen out, guys,
or
for those
something.
lambing noises. Write in with any updates about what it's like in your local area.
Lambs and ducklings. Look
Does
out
that mean
for it. All
Country
right.
File will be starting soon?
Yeah, maybe I'll apply. Maybe that's my future.
Cool, there's been so many manifestations today. All right. If you heard it here
You watch,
first
you watch. In a
today,
month's time, you'll be like, in a month's time, I'll be like, guess what, G? I've got an interview with Bill Oddie. And you'll be like, my goodness, that was Pacey from the universe. I'll be like, yeah,
and then Daisy
Bill
May
Oddie's still
Cooper's
alive.
ringing up your dad, and it's like you got Channel 4 sitcom coming for dad, you got the Lambing season coming for GPT, The Witcher phones up Jack and is like, do you want to come and join in this
It's like,
immersive experience and role play as the Witcher for money? Like,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.